snuck it in at the end of last year in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
I know it went really well in the 6th grade here. Is that going to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want it to kind of just be a one and done thing. Okay.
Will it be the same format, same kids, same
Different
ages?
kids.
Same age.
Same ages, right?
Yeah.
Those are my two small things. Go ahead. Take it away.
Take it away.
Just,
I think it's on all of our minds. You know, you had told us last year about your changes over at Bartlett, and
Yep.
we are very interested in them.
Yep.
Because we have a lot of thinking to do about
Yep.
our layouts.
There you
So we were hoping at this meeting you guys could kind of clarify your plans and give us any information you have so we can think on that.
You'll be hearing it second time, but that's fine. Maybe I'll even get better the second one. There you go. Well, anyway, so just, we can talk about the why. I mean, probably 7 years ago, I started, it even goes back further than that, but anyway, about 7 years ago, I started noticing this trend. And the trend was we were really losing kids, and what began to happen was single kindergartens, smaller classes. So once we started having single kindergarten classes, everything just began to evolve with that. So instead of having 2 looping teams, it went to 1, multi-age. So now, it was probably 5 years ago, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, this isn't good. This is not good. The only good thing we had going was that I mapped it out over, I think, 6 years, and the number of retirements that we had kind of matched perfectly with classrooms leaving. So we in the past, we had to rift 2 teachers, so we weren't rifting anymore. So just to give you the big picture, 380 to 180 after next year, this year, we're losing another 3rd and 4th grade. So there's 7 empty classrooms in the building. So we're shrinking at a huge rate. So about 1 million years ago, I'm trying to make this quick, I saw this video on creating houses within schools, and I started thinking about that K-8, and the vision, my vision back then, was to have 2 K-4 houses and then move upstairs to a 5-8 house. And obviously, looking at it 7 years ago, that was not going to happen. So one of my huge beliefs and my non-negotiables are keeping kids over more than 1 year. Making sure that we're all teamed up. We ripped down walls, we did that whole thing. So no one teaches alone. So we moved into a multi-age. And my other kind of thing that I was searching for was not having to reinvent the organization year after year after year after year. And I saw you guys do it. And I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to, with these small classes, sit there at the end of every year and reinvent. It's not healthy for the organization. I'm not saying anything about your reinventing. On a larger scale, it's not healthy. It's not healthy for kids, teachers, anything. Can't budget properly. So anyway, so I started kind of thinking about different organizational arrangements. Now, you can go off and you can find research that will tell you that a 6, 7, 8 isn't a great organizational arrangement. It's out there. What that research is talking about is a 6, 7, 8 built in Sanborn with K-5s sitting in the district, okay? I was the principal of a 6, 7, 8 in Saco, 885 kids. It worked. It didn't work as well as I thought, as I cut my teeth in a 5-8. And everybody has this sense that a middle school has to have teams of 4, which doesn't make any sense either. So there's a whole lot of ways to organize, if you want to call it a middle school. It's more of a philosophy of how we treat kids, all right? And not being a junior high school or high school. So anyway, so in a K-8, it's a different ballgame. So the 6-8 piece, the research that people have been talking to, that doesn't, I don't believe that has anything to do with a K-8 and reorganizing the school. So I started thinking about trying to what's best for kids. Is it a 5-6 with 25 kids, or is it? So I started playing games, and so what I came out with was a K2, a 3-5, because I saw Jackson work the 3-5 over 3 years. That was a long time ago. I'm not too sure if he had a 3-5 now, what it was. But I know talking, I think Ian Keller was the principal who started that. So there was a model for that, so I knew that worked, and then 6, 7, 8. So when we started playing with the 6, 7, 8, I started playing with the schedule. What really began to happen was I really kind of looked at, it broke it down into teams of 2, instead of a large team of 7. So, and you can reorganize those teams of 2 anywhere you want throughout the day. So if I'm Joe Young, I can team up with Carol Penza for a trimester. If I'm Joe Young, I can team up with Jen Wood writing. I can team it up any way I want. And moving more into competency-based education, what we know is we need large chunks of time with kids. You got to have large chunks, even more than 80 minutes. You got to have large chunks. So we have a couple of different schedules that we're piloting this year, and that allows us to have 3 teachers in a room with a group of, let's just say, 6th graders, and they can work on a social studies project. We could have Joe Mountford, Jen Lloyd, and Lisa Wedge, in a room for a day or however long you want. So the other thing that it kind of did was it kind of created almost equal numbers. So each village has around 60 to 35. I think it's 49. So it kind of played out. So everything kind of played out. We're already multi-age. We're already looping. We're already teamed up, the whole thing. So it just made sense to me. So I began to think about what we would need. And, so in the budget next year, there's a stipended position. Right now we have 2 7th and 8th grade advisors. So in the budget next year, we have another 6th grade advisor. That person is basically charged with a 6th grade trip. We're going to keep the trip. I do have a parent that I talk to who keeps reminding me, Joe, boom, 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 you need to be thinking about this. And when we get closer, I'll kind of identify that parent to our 5th grade parents. But so this person's a good person to remind me of certain things. So we're going to keep the 6th grade trip with Jackson. So there'll be a 6th grade trip, a 7th grade trip, and 8th grade. Advisee, kind of more like an amoeba kind of. So that person is in charge of the 6th grade. We'll stay with the 6th grade for 3 years. So the 6th graders, we kind of, the details out there. I'm a big picture person. I'll lay out the big picture. They'll work on the details. I'm not going to do that. But the amoeba piece is kind of like the 6th graders will be working on portfolios about who am I as a person, personality traits, learning styles, et cetera, in large groups. And then they will be in with their 6, 7, 8 advisors. And so it's going to morph in and out. So if you know anything about 8th graders, they're working on a different gig. That's a transition to high school. So when they're together as a group, they'll be working on that. Middle 7th graders. So way back when I was cutting my teeth, our principal came to us and said, if you had your choice, would you be a 7th grade teacher or an 8th grade teacher? And we were the 7th grade team, and when it all shook out, we kept our 7th graders because I love 7th graders. But if you've ever had a middle child, so what we're thinking is playing kickball with the 7th graders, okay? Because I'm only kidding, but they're the middle children. And my Emma is a middle child, all right? So if you understand middle children, you're going to love the middle children. But anyway, so we'll work on that, whatever they're going to work on, what they need. Maybe, matching socks, taking showers. 7th graders have that thing, so we'll work on something with them when the 7th graders are pulled together. So we have that in the budget. Each village basically has a full-time special educator attached. No different now, but we have a part-time down in K2 that's going to become full-time educator. There's a paid tech coordinator in each village. That position we see it as someone who can go online and has the charge of skilling out kids based on skills. Certainly not interested in anything like that, but it would be the data person. Okay, so we have this time with these kids and we want to work on skills. What do kids need? Where are they at? And then you got to go to the teachers and make sure that they're doing it. So that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's not a huge change academically. Maybe more time working with kids. I'm excited about the competency-based piece. I think it's big picture. I wish I was 40 years old again. I'd love to lead this whole thing. I believe that's where we need to be. You're talking about ELO. an extended learning opportunity person. They're gonna need that down the road, you're gonna need that. I don't know how many you're gonna need, but you're gonna need those. We're trying to do a couple right now, and it's exhausting trying to do it from the building. We need someone who's on the road working on mentorships, working on apprenticeships, the whole thing, so, and making those connections and doing that. So that's something that you're gonna have to have anyway. You asked me the question, do you think it's a big deal? I've been transitioning Jackson kids for a long time, 22 years, and, in the beginning, we might have had to do a lot. We kind of do stuff, but they're so they know each other so well that it's seamless over the last. I think the trip and a couple of other things. Joan came over with her class, did an academic project. I think more of that needs to happen. That would be that role of that sixth grade advisor. I think that's a critical position in the budget. I think that the sixth grade trip will be with middle school teachers, not sixth grade. If it's done right, and we'll work on doing it right. I don't think the kids coming in as seventh graders and our kids being there as sixth graders, I don't think they're going to miss a beat. But the only way you'll ever know, really, for sure, is to interview and survey those seventh grade kids at the end of the year and see what they've got. But my gut tells me I don't think it's going to be a huge deal.
Do you foresee any curriculum changes, sixth grade, now that it's in the middle school?
No, not really. We're not going to use everyday math. We're going to be using Mathscapes. I think that's
I think that's a concern we have is as far as the seventh grade Jackson kids being on par curriculum-wise with the seventh grade Bartlett kids.
I don't know if we're on par teaching the same stuff anyway, but
I guess with the sixth grade going up into that 6, 7, 8, is there any, because right now it's working. Right now it works, but is there going to be a curriculum change with the sixth grade going up to the middle school?
I don't see that. I don't know. Just different people. I mean, that's
Testing.
And it's the same people that, been teaching your seventh and eighth graders for a long time, so. Well, we do have a couple of new guys.
What about language with the sixth graders in that middle school? What would they, without a language period, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be French, but I mean, when we, this whole competency thing, so I'm kind of like, he brings it in and we're talking about it. I'm like, this is like awesome. And so when I had a student who came to us and said, look, I want to ski and I want to take French and Algebra 1 online. We got scared. I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. We started thinking about what happens if more kids want to do this, and then people aren't going to have jobs, they're going to be all over the place. And we had 4 kids leaving classroom last year, so we set a policy with the board that if we don't teach it, then you can take it online and do whatever you want to do. And I think that competency-based philosophy blows that wide open. Just blows it open. I mean, so I don't know what I see. We're not into the house on competency-based. We're not there.
So Joe,
We're just doing it right. Yeah.
thanks, because that was awesome. That was a short version. I think that was it, but we're really kind of getting punched on time at the moment. I think if we ask this question in May, we're asking it too late. I think that we at some point need to formally ask for the Bartlett board to consider what you would tuition our sixth graders for. And we don't expect that answer now or for this budget cycle, but if we ask that question in May,
I'd actually like to have it for this budget cycle.
and maybe that's what we do and ask for, but I think we need to make the formal request of what would you tuition our kids for? And that would be the big thing that you would have to decide as a Bartlett board. The negotiations beyond that would really be, I think, as far as contract length for that and contract wording beyond what the current contract is, if there's anything at all. But I think that the formal request from us would have to be for you to consider what you would consider
Sixth grade only.
the sixth grade tuition to be. And the reason why we would ask is because if it's at the current number, it makes it hard for us to realistically consider that as an option for us, and that's why we would be making the request.
So is your board thinking that it would be less than what your seventh graders are paying? Is that what
I don't know. We're
Our
asking.
numbers are
That's why
going
we're
to
asking.
increase
We
by
don't know.
50%,
And
so
why,
we need
and
to
what the
know.
question would be, why would it be less?
Well, this
That's
is
up to you guys.
So last May.
Volume,
Last May.
that's why, volume.
The last,
Our numbers would increase by 50%, on what we said.
Your numbers have increased?
No, they will increase by 50%,
Oh, your numbers,
which means our budget. is
The numbers we
gonna
send you would increase.
so Vicki, last May, we had this discussion a little bit, and the plan then was for Scott and I to get together and kind of figure out how would we talk about that. And when Scott and I got together to talk about it, we realized that there really isn't anything for Scott and I to talk about. It's really something for the Bartlett board to consider. And our question is, would you consider a tuition reduction for just our sixth graders at all? You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to consider it at all.
Or an overall adjustment, and for the fact that we'd be increasing our numbers by roughly 50%.
So the way you would frame the kind of discussion, I think, would be, there's one on the fairness being taxpayer, what's the cost per student, that's the way New Hampshire works. The other way to look at it might be from a budget standpoint. Right now, you don't get any money for our sixth graders, and if you got some, what it helps the budget. And so that's kind of the balance that you might want to have in consideration. That's why we're asking, because at the current rate, it makes it kind of not really a thought starter for us even. But if there's a different tuition rate, then it might be something we might consider more. I think we asked that question in May. We're starting to follow a little too long. Keith actually wants the information even sooner than that. So you by no means have to. This. There's no reason at all why you have to consider anything different.
Okay.
But we're asking that you would. And your answer might be, yeah, we thought about it, and there's nothing there. Or maybe there is. We don't know. We don't know without asking. So that's why we're asking. Is there? So I guess if you could take it up for a conversation at some point, it would be awesome. Is there anything? Do you guys have anything?
I got something too.
Anybody want to see what Bartlett has?
Yeah,
I didn't say
six,
have nothing.
Okay, so a couple of questions revolving around field hockey, football, going down to Conway, nothing to do with buses. Well, kind of, but not who's on what bus. I guess I'm just curious how it's affecting the kids in the classes that are not going, left behind. How many kids are leaving? How early are they leaving? Is it affecting, I mean, I know it's UA time, but UA is important, and...
Yeah. Right now, well, we've extended UA to be an hour and a half from the normal 80 minutes. So right now, there are 14 kids leaving. I think the one issue that I heard about was the phys ed class. There's 7 in that phys ed class. There were 4 who were out of the 14 who left. So there would have been 11 in the PE class. Actually, and I'm not saying anything about anything, but by the time I caught up with it, it was too late. They were all supposed to be in PEs, and we were going to begin to do some work with coaches, etc., around tracking students on those teams as to meeting PE standards, all right? And so that didn't happen. And so what we are doing now with, I don't think 7 and 11, if you want to have that conversation, we could have that conversation. But the 7 who were left, when it was brought to my attention, we're going to make sure that those kids get into extra PE activity-based electives.
So I guess I'm glad that it didn't, because another question is the PE. I mean, I don't think it should be that those kids who are off doing field hockey and football should get PE credit as opposed to the soccer kids, and therefore should get PE credit. I mean, there should
Well,
be...
they're leaving the school then, it's not after school. So if you want to have that debate, you can have that with the Bartlett School Board.
Right.
That's not a debate with me.
No, I guess
Yeah. No, I get that.
everyone's
I get
here. It's
that,
just
yeah.
it's a question
No, I get
on
that, yeah.
equality and...
That's, you know, and that was brought to me, and I would say no. I mean, they're leaving school time, and we don't give PE credit. You know what I mean? There's no credit.
I'm sorry. I guess I thought that's what you were saying. We're trying to work that out.
We're not. It's not credit. It's if anything, we're in the infancy of that.
Right.
And when Kevin and I began talking about it in September, when it was brought up, someone asked that question. Right? Good question. And I was like, wow, good question. So I called Kevin. I was like, that's a great question. And we started talking about okay, so we're kind of like pre-CES, you know what I mean? Pre-competency stuff. I got a kid leaving school doing that, gymnastics. I got a kid going up to the high school and doing volleyball, all right? So we're off into this direction, and we're talking now as a district administrative team, what are the blockers? What kind of kid is doing volleyball get on a Conway bus? What are we talking about here? I mean, so we're into this big thing right now, probably before anybody else, because we had the football in the field like play. You know what I mean? And they love it. And as we get smaller, so this is what I talk to Pick about all the time. I'm not too sure we're gonna have a baseball team this year. I'm dead serious. Lacrosse is really taking our numbers. And I'm just talking numbers. I don't know if we're gonna have a softball team. And so, just so that you understand how this works, because I have Jackson kids on the football team, and I got Jackson kids that play football, getting on top. So, it's not a policy, but it's kind of a board Joe Voce thing, all right? You want to call it that? It's the board Joe Voce thing. So, and numbers, predicting numbers are hard. Someone says they're going to play, in September, and all of a sudden it's April, and you know what? 2 of the kids who said they were going to play aren't playing, and you don't have a team, all right? And to field the team, sometimes we have to allow kids to miss all the practices because they're playing AU basketball and just playing games. So we're doing everything we can. So anyway, so if we can't field the team, then we hire a practice coach. Those kids who don't want to go to Kennett, we hire a practice coach for 1 year. We did it in field hockey last year. And then the following year, we don't have a team, we don't have coaches, and they have to go down to Kennett Middle School if they want to compete. So if you want to think about that, I mean...
Joe, just as an example, I think that the sports is a good example of what the state requires now. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, the state requirement for phys ed now is that the students participate in a health-related activity every day. And that's the requirement. There isn't an hour requirement, there isn't a credit requirement anymore. And that's the way a lot of the education requirements are going to be. They're going to be something pretty generalized like that. And they can get that credit walking to school and not necessarily. However, and there's going to be a way where teachers are going to have to assess that.
Right, so that means, and if you think about that really means that, Pick could be on the road some afternoons, going to Kennett, talking with coaches, talking to, just think about that. Gymnastics coaches, I mean, who owns that coach? Are they fingerprinted? So this thing is going to get, and I like that. I love working in the gray area more than any other area, any other place. I love that. So I want to push the boundaries. But here, let me answer your question. 6th graders, do they participate in 6, 7, 8 interscholastic sports? So here it is. There's no answer. So we're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to say, okay, Annette, do you have enough 5-6 to field a 5-6, let's say, girls basketball team? And if not, we have a girls basketball team. Do we need the 6th graders? Or is it more beneficial if we don't field a team to have a 5-6 program? So this thing cannot be tight. It has to be, and another thing that I like, loose. It's got to be loose. And you can't have black and white policies dictating how this thing's going to play out.
And I appreciate it. I think it's great that there are more sport offerings. I guess this is a money piece to the board, too. No, my next point is a money piece. Just to keep in mind and not lose sight that of the sports you do have. I'm going to use soccer as the example. I mean, you're spending money on sending kids for field hockey and football. Should money be spent on these sports we do offer? Sending coaches to clinics, improving the field so it's not a half a dust bowl. I mean, I just want you guys to think about that.
Saving money or not spending the coach for field hockey. We had field hockey before, and it's this. That's the whole thing about offering opportunities for kids to play sports, and it's also integration of meeting people down there. And I'll tell you what, just going to play sports, it's pretty intense.
And I think it's great. I agree with that, with the concept of it. I'm just saying, don't lose sight of the sports that Bartlett does have and does offer when there could be some improvements there as well, and maybe some money spent there as well.
I have a feeling that this conversation is going to become more intense and more important over the next coming 6 months, really, particularly with all of it. Because the flip side of all that, the looseness of it, is the idea that with that, we're also losing significant portions of our student populations into other areas. And during the school day, is that okay, versus outside of the school environment, is that okay? And how do we control that in the end? I mean, if we're learning stuff at 8 o'clock at night, and that's part of mathematics, what does that look like for small schools in general?
Yeah, that, and right now, you probably have Kennett High School probably has the only, I don't know if they're Division II or III, I don't know. They're Division II. They're probably one of the few Division II teams that are, if you want to call it a homogeneous Conway team. I mean, they don't exist anymore. I mean, you have districts combining to play football. You have districts combining to play hockey. The first one I read about was 5 years ago in Vermont. Love Vermont, way ahead of the game. But anyway, you got, Burlington and Mount Mansfield joined together to put together a girls' hockey team because neither one had the numbers. And so that's how it's all going to play. As we continue to get smaller and smaller, if we want our kids participating, and you're right, what does that do for the afternoon? That's a great question. I don't know. So when I think about it, so maybe you have to switch UA for middle schoolers. It goes back to the ELOs. Individual students doing individual things.
And that's what I'm trying to say. I think that this conversation is going to get bigger and more important in the next really years.
Yes,
we have been doing this for a while, and the word loose is actually, I agree with them, believe it or not. It's a good term because the population isn't necessarily, we got strong kindergarten class. I mean, there's numbers down there. It's not going to go to nothing. But the opportunity of having diversity to offer all those types of sports and opportunities is going to be different every single year with every single class. You have to be able to go, yes, no, how it's going to play out. It's going to change month to month, year to year, how it's going to be constant difference.
But that's only, that's if we allow it to. There would be ways to rein it in and go the other direction, and I think that's something as a community we're going to have to start to figure out. Because if we made the choice to go the other way with it, saying, this is what we have, this is what we can do. We can't do these other things because we don't have the student population to do it. And I'm just saying that there's different directions.
And that happens at high school level too. Look at Berlin doesn't have football.
Is there an option to ask questions?
We could do
Well, Scott,
individual sports,
hang on.
tennis courts, I think we could build tennis courts.
And that's what I'm trying to say. I think that this is an important conversation to have. This isn't
I
the
think
forum to have it.
Joe, this is not vague. That abstract conversation doesn't help me at all. The school ends at 1:45 for a chunk of kids. If my kid was playing football, I would be disturbed that my kids, you've just chopped off an hour and a half of their school day.
for the football season.
No, sports are after school. This is in school. I don't care if you just told me that UAR, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. It's not a valuable curriculum. Sports,
I didn't say that.
But sports
I didn't say
occurs
that
after
UA
school.
was not a valuable curriculum.
My son is after there. It's a class of 21 kids, and a bunch of kids are now missing for an hour and a half. They go down and that's one piece. Now they go down and have sports down in Kent. They have 2 hours of sports, 2 hours of practice. My kid walks out, gets 45 minutes on a soccer field that is substandard in size.
Well,
And I'm saying that what you have at home for both sports and curricular is significantly substandard compared. I don't
You should be
think
having the conversation about sending your 7th and 8th graders to Kennett.
mostly. No, Joe, we are here right now going to the school that you were principal of.
That's
And
what I'm
you're
telling
taking
you,
kids
because
out of school an hour and a half earlier. That is to play sports. If you do that on a daily basis, I don't know why this room is not erupting. The school boards are not,
I don't
understand.
This is what I'm trying to say. I think that this is an important
It's
conversation.
never been a choice before, Scott.
It's been pushed for 3 years.
Yeah,
Leave
This is
it
not the first year this
1:45.
happened.
Oh, yeah.
3 years.
This is the third year.
This is the third year this happened.
thing is, I empathize with what you're saying because I agree with a lot of it. But what I'm trying to drive at here is that this is an important conversation to have. I think it will continue. tonight simply isn't the time to do it, because we're actually supposed to be in our regular scheduled meeting right now, so I'm trying to move the meeting along. And I think that this conversation is going to continue, and I think it's an important one to have, and we'll have to figure out how to do that. But we do need to come to a conclusion on the joint meeting for boards, so kind of drifting from there. I'm sorry, Angus, but it's just Nancy plowing. Nancy, please, yes.
I just wanted Jackson to know too, though, when this discussion that went on about like having the students go down to Kennett, this was a huge discussion
Big time.
over a long period of time for our board, for Joe, for the community. It wasn't something that was just decided, hey, let's just do this. So we want to make sure that, you know, your taxpayers and your parents also know that anytime there's a discussion like this, it's not something any of us took lightly. We looked at it at a parent's point of view, we looked at it as a board point of view, we looked at it as a staff point of view. And this was what we came up with that felt that was what was going to work at this time. So
Big fight.
I just, yeah, it was a lot of disagreements. So I do want to, I'm sorry to.
No, thank you.
I just
Thanks for
wanna-
clarifying.
It
Big
was
fight.
a big discussion, and it wasn't decided lightly. And there's a lot of parents that have been pulling their kids out for years, starting in kindergarten for dance and for other things, so we just want to.
20 seconds.
Yeah, we'll give you 30.
So two things. The first one was a comment for both Bartlett and Jackson boards. And though this might sound like it's super far away, but it's not. In the next few years, we've got to decide what we're doing with Kennett. And I know these boards are going to change, but I would hope that these boards constantly have this discussion leading up to it, and neither one of us are making the decision 6 months before.
2022.
3 years.
And last thing was, yes or no answer, has Bartlett made any decisions on preschool next year?
No, that's Jackson.
I do believe there will be a warrant.
Yeah.
Whoa, no, you don't
No,
believe that the board has to
I
let
believe-
the warrant. You have to let the board decide that.
Wait,
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's,
That's basically.
at this point, there has only been discussion at the board level. The leadership team for the SF grant has recommended to the board to have a publicly supported preschool, that it is feasible, and there will be more discussion in December regarding us moving forward, of seeing if the board would approve a warrant article to be moved to the taxpayers in the March meeting. So nothing has been voted on, but yes, something is going to be coming to the board in December, and the board will have to decide as to. Yeah.
At our last
They
meeting,
might do it.
at our last meeting, we instructed Kevin and Gail to come up with a warrant article for preschool for this coming warrant.
So Jackson has not made a decision yet.
Well, I mean,
It's kind of
ultimately,
like we are.
no boards will technically make a decision
Right.
until we vote on what the
We
warrant is
asked
going
them
to
to put
be.
We
together a
voted
warrant article.
4-1 to put a warrant article.
There you go. We have not voted yet.
Yeah, we're going to be presenting a warrant article to the board to vote on in December as a publicly supported. Okay.
Anything else?
I just want to jump on what Keith is saying, and just if we can get it on the agenda for our next joint meeting to talk about the Kennett.
I think that would be a
I
good
think it
idea.
should stick on every agenda until that time comes, because as we all know, these boards change, and it could easily.
The
someone
last
else will
process
come up
for the
with a
contract,
about it.
last process for the contract was twofold. It was the cooperative, which failed, and that was probably at least a 2, maybe 3-year discussion.
That was Jackson.
Well, it was. But at any rate, that was a 2 to 3 year process for that. And then the process for the contract that was approved was another 2 years. So it's a long process. So I think it would be smart to
And I
start
think it's
with.
for 3 years before we have to commit on that.
Yes.
So if we could put it on the agenda for next May, I think, to have a discussion about maybe having a subcommittee at least start to, you know, and it could just be to begin to frame the ideas and frame the discussion on how we
The tuition contract.
And just a quick announcement. So, just a quick announcement for the Bartlett board. We, Thursday, you probably heard about it already, but Gloria has asked me to spread the word. On Thursday, Reaching Higher New Hampshire is coming to the Whitney Center to talk about policy changes at the state and federal level, some of which actually will have bearing on what we're making decisions about. So, if you all are interested, or if you want to pass it along to your parents, it should be a good discussion, because Dan over at Reaching Higher New Hampshire is coming to talk about the changes that happened last year and the ones that are on deck, including, I think including.
At both
things-
state and federal levels.
State and federal level that are going to be coming down. And then I think part of what the discussion tonight kind of reminded me of is that, and this goes back to what Keith said a couple months ago, which has really been on my mind, which is that we tend to focus a lot on the K through 5, 6 here because most of us had kids here, but we are responsible for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And so I just would want to throw out there to both boards, if there's a way to constructively talk about that, because for me personally, I'm generally new to the board. I don't know enough about things at the high school level, and I certainly don't know enough about the middle school level, although I'm trying. But so if there's a way to talk about that, because I didn't know that our kids were leaving at 1:45, the Bartlett kids, and that has nothing to do with what my opinion would be. It's just I don't even know enough about what we're responsible for in that realm. So I'll personally make an effort to do it. But if there's a way to kind of do that, our board next month has a listening post where we are hoping that folks will come and talk about their experiences and things like that. Because that's something that's happened is in my 2 years here, I've had a lot of parents pulling me aside saying, well, have you thought about this for art? Are we doing this? And I said, it's not just me that needs to hear it, it's kind of everyone. So
Okay, Crystal.
that's it.
Anything else? Next meeting, May 1st, 2018, Bartlett. Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bartlett. Thank you.
Yes, we do an hour.
Sure. 5 o'clock?
Thank you guys very much.
Can I ask you to move in that way if you're staying, just so that there she is if anybody comes in?